Yo, what's up, guys? We're back with another episode of PB&J. I'm back with Jesse and Brian. What's going on, guys?
Hey, what's up?
Yo, how's it going? Did you guys do any Black Friday shopping over the weekend?
I did Black Friday dreaming and wishing, but no money for purchasing this year.
Next year, Jesse? When you're fat rolling?
Exactly. When the lottery.
Yeah.
I have a wish list.
No, I didn't do any Black Friday, but I saw some good deals for Cyber Monday, mainly just for video game stuff. So I'm gonna wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, I picked up like one or two games like that were on sale, and a lot of 4K movies that Best Buy had on Friday or on Thursday. So we watched Wonder Woman again in 4K. It looks pretty nice. So whenever you come here, John, like in a couple of weeks, you can check it out again.
All right.
Movies I got Alien. I mean, it's all stuff you watched already, like Alien, a couple other movies. Can't think of them right now.
And your TV?
You're saying you get to see her boobs in 4K.
Covered pretty well in their clothes.
Is your TV 4K or is it 4K compatible like mine?
Oh, it's 4K.
It's true 4K. Yeah. Okay. Mine is 4K compatible, so it'll play the 4K and it'll up-res it to 4K, but it won't be quite true 4K, but it'll be close. My roommate, he finally got the Xbox One X, but he doesn't have any 4K stuff, so we haven't had a chance to try it out.
But it's still up-res though, right? Like for some of the games?
Some of them, like, none of the ones he has, but some of them. So like he was playing Destiny 2, and it's the same.
Yeah, I heard they're gonna come out with a 4K upscale in December, so maybe there'll be a difference then, even if it's not played on a 4K TV.
So it will be a totally separate game or like a patch?
It's just a patch to up-res the resolution. The game's still the same.
Yeah, that would suck if you have to buy another game because it's like, is it worth it?
Yeah, I think Forza is the one that's going to be the Xbox One X game. I think early next year. I think that's what I heard. It was Forza.
Oh, that one's out already. So.
Oh, is it out? Okay, yeah, I heard that was.
You can see that in 4K now. Like.
Yeah. I saw Amazon had some really good stuff. Wolfenstein 3D not Wolfenstein 3D, the new Wolfenstein. That one was like half off. It was like $25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'll hit up the online and see what I can get. But this episode we were gonna talk about pretty much the month of December. It was a pretty eventful month for comic book cinematic worlds, I guess you can say. We had Thor came out early this month, followed by Justice League. And then we had The Punisher on Netflix. Inhumans ended like 2 weeks ago. And then we also have Gifted running on Fox right now. And also we were talking about this a little bit offline, but Runaways debuted on Hulu. And I don't have Hulu, but I heard it was pretty good. A friend of mine from work watches it and he says it's pretty good. So we kind of want to cover all that stuff. First thing I guess we can talk about, since it's not really movie news. Well, I guess it is, but we had a few weeks ago Fox Studios announced, or it wasn't really announced, I don't know if you call it a leak or just people reported on it. Fox Studios no longer wants to be in the movie business anymore, and they're looking at selling off their entire movie studio and entertainment division, and they want to focus entirely on sports and news. And what made this such a big deal is that the first studio they contacted about potentially buying their stuff was Disney. Now this is exciting because to the comic book fans, because that opens up the door to the X-Men and Fantastic Four returning to Marvel Studios, and we can all get the almost fully complete Marvel universe with all the characters and stuff. So that got us all excited. And so far, nothing's really come of it since then. The two studios aren't talking currently, which doesn't mean anything. The same thing happened with Sony and Marvel with Spider-Man. They struck up a conversation. Conversation died for a few months, I think, and then the deal came together, and then Spider-Man returned. Recently, I read that Sony, Universal, Verizon, and Comcast all got in there. So now there might be a small bidding war going on to get Fox's studio rights. But like Jesse, you just said offline, who has that Disney money, right? Who can match Disney? Who can match that fat check?
Disney bought out Pixar. Pixar. And they bought Star Wars. These guys over here are Verizon just put in a lot of money to buy out some other stuff. They're not going to have that money available that Disney has. Disney just prints money, versus, except Verizon. Verizon just got into a contract. So
yeah, who do they merge with? They merged with something pretty big, right? Or they tried? Was it T-Mobile?
No, they merged with AT&T.
Oh, okay, yeah, AT&T. Okay.
And that's the reason why there's that whole issue about the keeping of CNN and whether CNN is going to be screwing up the whole deal and stuff because the government getting involved and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, either way, that's a shitload of money that they put into that deal. So, I mean, they can leverage, like saying, "Oh, now we're this huge company," and maybe buy it in terms. But still, I would think that Disney has much more money available than the other people interested.
Yeah, and I know that another aspect of why this appeals to Disney too is that Disney, since they're starting up their own streaming service, by them acquiring all the Fox assets, they also acquire Simpsons, King of the Hill, X-Files, Sons of Anarchy, The Shield. They acquire all this content for their streaming service, which makes it, of course, more appealing for people like us to subscribe to their subscription service, right? Because if it's just their Disney stuff, their Disney properties, I don't know if I would jump on. I have all the Marvel movies on DVD. I have Star Wars on DVD. Do I really want a streaming service so I can watch Beauty and the Beast and that, the Disney stuff? I'm not really. Now, if they did something like that and pretty much remove all that stuff from Netflix to Disney, then that kind of makes me consider someone like me, like, oh, okay, maybe I'll jump on. And I don't know how that would affect the Netflix Marvel shows, Defenders, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and all those. I don't know if they would pull and get pulled over, or if they stay on Netflix. I'm not sure about that yet. But that's another huge selling point, I guess, for Disney is it goes to their streaming service. So I mean, it makes the most sense for Disney to get them. But like you said, maybe right now Fox is talking to all these other companies for leverage, and Disney can kind of just, they can jack up the price on Disney and stuff. Brian, were you gonna jump in and say something?
No, I was wondering what other movie properties they can buy from them. But you mentioned a lot of the TV shows, which I didn't think of. I mean, Fox they do have a lot of really good shows on there that people still watch, right? Like even like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I mean, that's a cult classic that a lot of people watch, so that would be on there too. So pretty much everything that's on FX and Fox and all that would all be bundled in.
Everything. And I think I read somewhere that Sons of Anarchy is still it's like top 5 or top 10 on Netflix, the most binge shows. So they need properties like that. And yeah, you're wondering with other movie stuff, it's everything. It's their entire, so the Alien franchise, Lethal Weapon franchise, all of that would go to Disney. Everything with Fox on it goes to Disney.
Dude, the X-Files,
X-Files,
he said called classics. There's going to be 24.
24, I didn't think about 20. Yeah, there's another one.
And would they be also preview to some of the Fox shows? I mean, hasn't Fox done any kind of special type shows? But they have some kind of MMA stuff or whatever? Or
no, that's
sports. They will keep the sports.
Yeah, the sports.
So just the TV and the movies.
Right. Yeah, Fox. I guess as a whole has just not been a profitable company lately, so they just don't want to do any more movie stuff. So I remember in 2015 really burned them really bad. They had 2 huge flops. Fantastic Four was one of them, and then there was another that I'm blanking on the top of my head that they put a ton of money into, and it flopped really hard, and that really hurt the company. And right after that is when they closed down their offices in El Segundo. And those 2, whatever the other movie was in Fantastic Four, had a huge part of it. So they didn't see a profit until they didn't see a profit until Deadpool, which was early 2016. And I guess after that they were just and then X-Men Apocalypse didn't really do too. It did all right. It made money, but it didn't make stupid money. So I think they just were just we just want to get rid of this stuff and just get a big fat check for it and cut our losses type thing. I read Sony jumped in there because they're desperate for IPs. Other than Spider-Man, they have nothing.
Yeah, they recently put out The Dark Tower, and that movie kind of flopped.
That
too,
movie
right?
flopped. Yeah, it flopped hard. So they are desperate for anything, for any type of IPs. So of course they jumped in, and then I'm sure, I think Jesse, I think you just saw an article right now saying, oh, Spider-Man and the X-Men could all cross over, which is cool. And I think even that would make like a roundabout way for them to get into Marvel too, since they already have the partnership with Spider-Man. You know, if Sony got a hold of it, it's, hey, we have X-Men and Fantastic Four, can we keep our partnership going? And I'm sure they would get all that stuff going together too. The other ones, what was it? Universal. I think it's Universal, same thing. They would just want IPs. Comcast and Verizon. I think for them it would be the streaming services and their cable companies and stuff.
Mostly Comcast.
Right,
You
right.
know,
So
the,
no, go ahead.
because Verizon might use it for their like BIOS stuff, but
Exactly.
I think, yeah. So
The one that makes the most sense, and if they do sell, it's probably going to happen. I'm going to guess is going to be with Disney. Jesse, like you said, they have the cash for it, and I think they also have the most incentive for it as well. So that's what I'm going to guess, because like Disney, it just seems like whenever they want something to happen, it happens, right?
yeah.
You know, they want Marvel, bam, made it happen. They wanted Lucasfilm and Star Wars, bam, they made it happen. So I think Disney. I think ultimately, if Fox sells, if Fox goes through with this whole thing, I think that does end up with Disney. That, I mean, of course, as the fanboys that we are, I mean, that right away it's like, oh, what's going to happen? What will we see? What's going to be the coolest thing? So if it goes through, let's say the deal happens, Jesse, what will be the first thing you want to see?
I think me and you have talked about this, and I'm kind of unsure if it would happen depending on when this deal goes through. But dude, Wolverine,
right?
You know, any crossover with Wolverine into the Marvel stuff, and then of course a revamp of the Fantastic Four. But I think the biggest thing, and Hugh Jackman, and I think that's the thing it's kind of cool, is Hugh Jackman wants this. He's been talking about doing
for years
a crossover. Like he wants to do a Spidey crossover or an Avengers crossover. But you know, obviously with an Avengers crossover, it would be much easier. But with, like you said, the partnership that Sony's kind of done with Marvel, you never know. They can loan it to us. Loan him to Marvel again for a crossover of some type.
Yeah, I think at Comic-Con, right? He said it a bunch of times, right? Every time we see him at Comic-Con,
he's in, I mean, I don't know really how much of a comic nerd he is, but for that, he has a heart on.
Yeah. Yeah, he brings it up. He brings it up without anyone asking. He just brings it up.
Yeah. And it's funny because a little cameo in Deadpool would be good too, or not even that, just pop Deadpool in all of these Marvel movies, in and pop him out, just bringing the fourth wall, how much funnier would it have been if you saw Deadpool, at the fight with Hulk and Thor, sitting in the background.
Yeah, I think that would be the very, very first thing they do is just plop Wolverine and probably even Professor X. I think those two is what everyone wants to see. I mean, I don't really hear anyone saying, "Oh, I wish Cyclops was in the Avengers movies." It's Wolverine and probably Professor X. You can probably put them in the Avengers movies, and then everyone would freak out. And then they also get the Fantastic Four, get them going, especially since their cosmic stuff is kind of where the series is headed, the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
After Infinity War Part 2, from the rumblings I'm getting and reading and stuff, that sounds like that's it for Iron Man, Captain America, maybe Thor. Pretty much the OG crew. It sounds like that's the end of the line for them, and then everything's going to go more cosmic, and the movies will more focus on like Guardians, Captain Marvel when she debuts, Spider-Man, Black Panther, Ant-Man. Yeah, they're gonna kind of push the future ones, whereas the other ones I think will retire. Hulk, Hawkeye, Black Widow, all of them. So to revamp the Fantastic Four now would be perfect. You can come in, bring in their origins, and it makes sense too. Like you just come in and you have their origin story, and then and they just hop right into the cosmic stuff. Oh, and Doctor Strange too. And so I think that would be great to see. So hopefully, fingers crossed, if something happens, it happens kind of soon. When the Spider-Man deal went down, bam, they got him in those movies quick. Remember, like there was like Spider-Man. Oh, he's in Civil War. Like immediately.
Yeah, and I think they were already filmed, right?
What's that?
They've already started filming
Yeah.
Civil War during the talks, and they just plugged them in.
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, they were already filming, and it was kind of like they had it as like a plan B. They were like, we think this might happen, this thing might happen, and then when it did happen, they already had it set up, and they just popped them in. So that when they want it to happen, it'll happen.
And it'll be weird, but I think it'll still be cool. Where, like you said, they're doing all the cosmic stuff, and the origin story happens after the Avengers. Where because originally, like the Fantastic Four were technically like the first superheroes, I think, right? I think they were before Avengers and everything.
Fantastic Four, yeah, that was the very first modern Marvel, or that was the very first one that Stan Lee did, was Fantastic Four.
So like I said, it would be kind of weird on the comic side, but I think it would work with them for the next generation of viewers, for them to use like the after effects of Infinity War, like you said, the global stuff, and then somehow a side effect of something that happened messes up the experiment that these guys are doing, and then boom, there you go, we created the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. And
then you go, start off with them. But yeah, they really need to do something really good with Fantastic Four now. It's to me, it seems like they're under more pressure because they fucked it up so many times. Like for example, Punisher. Me and you were kind of like, oh, this is a great actor, but hopefully they don't screw it up like they've done the last 3 movies.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of people say there's 2 movies, but technically there was 3 movies.
Yeah, the Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to a few people who were like, no, there's 3 movies.
There's 3 of them, yeah. Everyone forgets about that third one, the first one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't released in theaters or anything, so it was just straight to video. So it's hard to find. It's even hard to find. If you want to look and find it, it's not easy to find. I doubt they went and made Blu-rays of that movie.
Do you think it'll be available on the Disney streaming?
Yeah, I don't know who made that movie. I have no clue what studio it did. I have no idea. Brian, have you heard of it? Did you ever hear that one?
I've heard of it, but I know I've never watched it.
Yeah, I remember I saw it when I was younger because my older cousins, they had the VHS and they were like, "Look, John the Punisher," because I was into comics and stuff. And I remember watching it and I was like, "This isn't the Punisher." It was like way off, but whatever. It was a straight to video movie. They didn't really try too hard.
It was back in 1989.
Yeah, the good thing is that what I liked about that one was that it was really hardcore rated R, so they had that going for it. It wasn't like the Thomas Jane one, which was PG-13, and then it wasn't like Warzone, which was rated R, but it was like kind of cartoony and over the top. So at least they had that going for it. But yeah, if you see it, it's pretty bad. So speaking of Punisher, this week, or not this week, November 17th was the debut of the Netflix Punisher season 1. Coincidentally opened the same day as Justice League, which I know a lot of fans saw that was Marvel throwing up an FU to Disney, but turned not really. It was supposed to come out like a week or two earlier, but they had the shootings in Vegas and they decided to push it back just a little bit. It ended up being the November 17th. But I binged it over 3 days. I finished on Sunday. Jesse, I think you finished the Saturday morning or something, right?
Yeah,
yeah, and then yeah, and Brian finished, I think, this past Wednesday. So, what'd you guys think about Punisher season 1?
I'll let Brian talk first.
All right, so Brian, what do you think? Being the least comic guy, what'd you think about it as a general fan, I guess?
Okay, so I guess I'll just have to talk about it from the story point of view, less of the comic book like background. Like you said, as someone who has the least knowledge of the history of Punisher. So I liked how the show started with the ending of Daredevil season 3, is it? The
2.
last season of Daredevil?
Season 2.
Season 2, sorry. So where he was, going around picking off all those people, and in Daredevil, you kind of know why he's doing it. It's to avenge his family's, losing his kids and wife. So he gets the job done. And here they spend more time, going back to his background and in a series of flashbacks, and they bring in the Homeland Security as a side story, which they seem to do, which is very similar to Daredevil, where they have a separate entity that's not fighting the actual crime, where they're doing stuff on the side. So with Daredevil, he was able to do both sides, where at night he was able to fight crime as a superhero, and during the day he would use the law to his side. And with the Punisher, he can't do that. So they had to bring in a separate entity like the Homeland Security to kind of balance things out, right? Instead of just having just straight up all violence, to get things done. And I like that they spent time going over, people's view, at least in America, on gun control and gun violence. So you got two views of it. But in the end, according to Punisher, the people that he dealt with, they need to be put down with violence. There's no, something like the law is not enough to stop these kind of people. Because if he doesn't kill them, they'll kill him. So it's more of like you have to resort to violence. So because they have to bring in like this like Homeland Security, it in a way it felt kind of weak because they didn't really do anything. Like they were just like a buffer to add to the story, because the difference with them and, like I said, with Daredevil, he's able to play both sides, whereas Punisher or Frank Castle, he can't do that. So the other side, they were the ones like just trying to figure out all the pieces and kind of pulling the story along, but not really having a very effective like outcome. But I mean, having said this, I still like the show a lot. I mean, the last 3 episodes, I binged it all in one sitting because it just got so good towards the end. The beginning was good, the middle was a little bit slow, but overall it was still a very good show. I mean, I can talk more about it after you guys comment on it, and I'll add to what you guys say.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The Homeland Security plot was probably the weakest part of the show. But like you said, they couldn't interact with him at all, right? They couldn't interact with Frank Castle because it doesn't work. So they had to do everything on their own. And they really weren't doing a whole lot. Like most of their scenes are just in the office, right? And just like, oh, we're trying to get Frank, and they can't. And they really didn't do a whole lot. So I have to agree that was kind of a weak point. But I understand, like you said, I understand why they did it, because you had to have that other side, the other point of view. But without him interacting, it made it kind of hard. But coming at it as a comic book fan, I loved it. I thought the show was great. I thought the way they portrayed, the soldiers going to war and coming back and dealing with PTSD and gun control issues, which is very real modern day problems. And the show, and the thing is, I didn't expect that from this show. I actually didn't know what to expect. I thought, I was like, is the Punisher just gonna be hunting down mob guys all season? I didn't know what to expect, and this was not what I expected, but it was great. You got to see like how a supervillain, quote unquote, was born when you had the character of Lewis, who went over there and came back, and the PTSD was so bad, and he couldn't fit into the world, and ended up turning into a terrorist and becoming like a supervillain. So you got to see the logic behind. He wasn't just he wasn't like the Hand, right, in Daredevil, where they're just an evil group. Oh, we're just evil ninjas, right? You saw something very real, and you saw a person become something bad. So that was great. That was just awesome stuff. And it made, of all the characters in the Marvel Universe, Punisher is like, I don't want to say real because it's comics and it's fake, but he's one of the most real characters. And they really portray that really, really well. He's the one that deals with, street level gangs and mobsters and stuff like that in the comics. So in the show, to translate it into the show, you got to see him struggling to, because even him at the beginning, right? He was trying to become just a normal guy, and that lasted 2 episodes. He's trying to be a construction worker, and he couldn't do it. He comes in. There's a conspiracy with his killing his family, and so he's trying to get behind it. And then you also see other former military guys, his military crew, with Billy and Curtis, and you saw that, and they're dealing with their own PTSD in their own ways, and everyone was different. They're not like the way he dealt with his was he became the Punisher. How Curtis dealt with his was he started a support group. The way Billy dealt with his, he started a business and he focused on that. Lewis couldn't deal with it, and he became mentally unhinged. and it was all just great. It was awesome stuff. I liked Micro a lot, who was actually better than he was in the comics. Micro being Frank's IT guy, his tech guy. In the comics, he also, his son was killed, I think, and then he joined the Punisher. But I like the way they did it on the show, to where his family was alive, but they're in danger, so he was hiding under a basement for like a year, and then he came out to work with the Punisher. And the actor was really good. He was really funny. He was real, like, self-defacing, and I love the scene where his wife kisses the Punisher, and when Punisher gets back to the basement, he's just drunk. He's just like, whatever. I'm just not gonna fight you. I'm just gonna drink. But he was really good. I love the interaction with them too. I'm really glad they brought in Micro. And then what I also liked, what I really, really liked, was you saw Billy. Jesse, I know you know who he is, right? You know who Billy Russo is.
You're talking about the character, or you're talking about the actor?
The character.
No.
Oh, you didn't know?
I know who he is in the comic book, I guess, what you're saying, like what he's going to turn into.
Right.
I think it was season 2.
Right. So, spoilers out there, and Brian, you don't know who he is, but he's Jigsaw, right? Coming into the series,
was his name though in the comic? I mean, wasn't it Billy the something, like... His
name was Billy the Butte, because he was so good looking, but he becomes Jigsaw when his face gets sliced up. Going into the show, I knew who he was. I knew he was Jigsaw. I knew he was going to become Jigsaw at some point. So, but to see him go from the beginning of the show, who he was Punisher's friend, they served together, and then he was a successful businessman, and then towards the middle of the show, you see he's dirty and he's shady, and then towards the end, you see that this dude's ruthless and vicious, and his character arc was so good to see him go from someone you would just think, oh, he's his friend, and by the end of it, you're like, oh, fuck, he's not. This guy's crazy. Was so well done. It was written. You got to see his backstory about why he's the way he is, and so when he did turn at the end, it made sense. It wasn't like a random out of nowhere. Well, Brian, we'll use a wrestling term, a heel turn, where it was just like, oh, he's a bad guy, just kidding. Like you got to see it gradually over the season. I thought it was great, and it kind of looked like they were making Agent Orange the big bad of the year, but by the end of the season, it wasn't. It was Billy. And if you were the fan of the comics and you knew who he was, you kind of knew that was coming, but it was still great to see. So the show I thought it was great. It was really well written, well acted. I thought everyone in there was great. The showrunner from the show, and I didn't realize this until like halfway through the season, he was the guy who was the showrunner for Hannibal, and Hannibal was amazing. I love that show on NBC. And if you guys saw that show, you saw how gory and brutal that show was, and he brought that element to this show, and this show is fucking brutal, man. The fight scenes, the choreography was great. It was realistic. Like when he was fighting the captain, I think in episode 2 or 3, the old guy, remember that in his house? That was a great fight scene. Like the choreography was amazing. Like you can see them using actual techniques, actual self-defense techniques, and with the military trains. And even though that dude was older, the guy he fought, he still knew how to fight, so he put up a good fight against Frank. So, and it was so refreshing because the fight choreography coming from Iron Fist. Remember how bad that stuff was? So you go from that to this, is like, oh, thank God. And the fight scene, the gunfights were great. They were super bloody and brutal, and it was realistic. Like, this is the Punisher. He's not gonna take a punch and walk away. He gets punched, his eyes jacked up. He socks another guy. Their nose breaks. There's blood everywhere. Everywhere there's blood on this show. Like Brian, you said those last 3 episodes, 11, 12, and 13, the action was so good, and just bloody as hell. And there was a couple of scenes that made me cringe, where I was like, oh man, I had to kind of turn away a little. That's hard for me to do because I watch all these movies all the time. And,
yeah, like the last part when he was raking Billy's
oh
face
man,
off the mirror.
Yeah. Oh man, I was like, oh, and they just kept the camera on it.
You hear it too.
Yeah, you hear it, and he does it not for like a second. Like he just brings his face and he's screaming the whole time. Fuck, I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. Or even the episode before when he's jammed his thumbs in that dude's eyes. Like, yeah. Man, just great stuff. So as a fan of the comics, like they took a lot of the Marvel Max comics, which were they were the adults only. They were the 18 and over run. That was his run. They took a lot of that and incorporated into the show, which was amazing because that Marvel Max run on Punisher that's just some of the best comic book you'll just read just hands down. So the realism, the PTSD stuff, all of that came from those books. So it was cool to see them capture that, put it onto the show. And they left season 2. They can go several different ways for season 2. They can he can battle Jigsaw for the whole season, but in the episode 1 or 2, when those construction worker guys, his coworkers, when they robbed that card game, remember? It was that season 1 or 2, or episode 1 or 2. I think it was episode 1, right?
Episode 1.
Yeah. They mentioned that game was run by the Nucci family, and they're a huge, huge part of the comics. Like Punisher fights them for they're heavy, heavy mob players. If they they can bring them back for season 2, and they're heavy duty guys. So you can even go that way. So they planted their seeds in there for a couple of ways ago. So I love the series. I can't wait for season 2. I think coming up next though, we're gonna have a few. I think we're gonna have Jessica Jones, Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and then Daredevil. So we're gonna have those 3 next year. So we're probably not gonna see season 2 for 2 years, but I loved it. I think John Bernthal was like born to play the Punisher. Like this is his role. So yeah, a little better than Dolph Lundgren. So I'm happy.
About Thomas Jane.
Yeah, better than Thomas Jane. I give it A for effort. He really was into it and he tried really hard, but he can't hold a candle to this guy. Like
just the grunting.
Yeah, he's just so brutal and just intense. I think that's the word. He's so intense that it works. That's him. Like I don't want to see anyone else play Punisher ever. Yeah, that's how good this guy is. I think IGN said that one of the reviews for IGN was saying that his performance in episode 12, like that should give him if it wasn't a comic book show, like that was Emmy nomination stuff. But of course he's not going to get it because it's a comic show. But that's how good he is. So yeah, I love this. I was pleasantly surprised by this season. Loved it. It's hard to watch. I don't know if I can recommend it to everybody because it's not an easy watch. It's not something you can, I'm just gonna watch superheroes and it's gonna be good. No, like this is heavy stuff, and like I said, I was pleasantly surprised by it, and I thought it was great. So what do you think, Jesse?
Well, before Jesse goes, I just want to add, I like the contrast between Punisher and Micro, right? So Punisher, he wasn't careful enough, and he ended up losing his family, whereas Micro did the opposite.
Right.
And he's kind of living, and Micro can't visit his family, so in a way, Punisher is kind of taking his place. So there's a lot of like back and forth.
Yeah.
To substitute for a missing family for both of them. So I thought that was really cool how they played off that. And then for Billy Russo's character, I like that they spent the entire season on him. Like not like the other shows where they would do a flip after 6 or 7 episodes. They stuck around with him, and then towards episode 9 or 10, I think, the episode starts with him visiting his mom that's in the hospital.
Yeah, great scene.
Kind of gives them some background, right? And then to explain why, who he is, like what's driving him, and he's just as ruthless as Punisher is, but he's more of like a finesse guy, right?
Yeah.
Because he's good looking, he has money, he just the way he kills people is a lot smoother, more quieter than Punisher, just making a lot of noise and just like shooting the whole place up. So yeah, I really like the contrast between those two characters. So
yeah, it was like in that scene where I think it was the last episode where they were at the park. Remember Punisher and his family, and they call him Uncle Billy.
Yeah.
Man, like that was like really heartbreaking. It was like heartbreaking to see that, right? You're like, like Punisher. He loved them so much. He was part of the family, and to see his betrayal is just like I was like, man, this is good stuff right here. It's like, what a like they're all tragic characters. Punisher's a tragic hero. Billy's a tragic villain. Like it's good, and I like what you brought up between those scenes with Michael and Frank and his family. Like they needed a father figure, so he became like their surrogate father, and then they kind of became his family that he lost. And then Michael's like, "Hey man, that's my family." But it was just great. It was just great stuff. It was good. It was just just really good. But yeah, Jesse, what'd you think?
Before I go on, let me ask you because obviously you're more of the comic book reader than I am on this. Was there ever a storyline where the military was responsible for killing his family? Or has it always been the mob?
It was the mob. It was the mob.
That's the only thing that bothered me. I mean, I understand why they had to do it to continue the story, but I think that's the only thing that bothered me with the consistency because basically in Daredevil he kills like every fucking mobster that's related to his wife's death, but then it's like, wait, so did you just kill those people without confirmation? I mean, obviously they deserved it because they're bad, right? You know, if you think of his mythos, he kills bad people, but he basically killed innocent people for his cause. His cause was, I'm gonna kill everybody who's related to the death of my family, and then you find out, oh wait, it was actually a government conspiracy. So all those like 80 gangbangers or members that you killed and stuff. Oops.
Well, no. So what they did. So I know what you're saying. I know because I got kind of confused too. So the way they set up in Daredevil was that you had the girl that the DA, I forget her name. She ends up getting killed. She set up the sting, right? You had the Dogs of War, the mob, and another gang, right? She orchestrated all of that. Whenever they said it was, we had a drug sting, it was going, and all they would say was that it went bad. Remember, it went bad. Right. It went bad, and they never said what went bad. They just said someone started firing, and then they were caught in the crosshairs. So the Punisher kills all of them. He kills everybody involved in that because they were all shooting each other. They all got his family killed. Well, now in this season, you find out who shot first, and that was the government.
I see.
So yeah,
they were really the ones that caused it, and there was just by perchance that the gangsters were there, and then they just shot. They heard shots, and then it went all haywire.
Yeah, so they knew. So you had this drug scene set up by the DA,
right?
And something triggered it, and they all started killing each other. Well, now we know the government, or that guy Agent Orange and Billy. It was them. Well, no, Billy knew about it, but he wasn't there. So Agent Orange was monitoring everything, and then when he saw the sting was going to happen, he made sure. He orchestrated to make sure that they were there on the day that the Punisher was there and his family, and then once everything got together, then they set off the shots, and then that's when everything broke off. So it's that. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wait a minute, he killed her, but now I was like, no, wait. Whenever it went bad, whenever they tried to explain it, all they would say is it went bad. So now we know why it went bad. So he killed the right people, but then this one he had to get to the very, very top and do it too.
Yeah, and like I said, to me, I understand how they did it because I mean, you have to keep on going to storyline. How do we have Punisher Frank Castle go kill people? Well, let's make a conspiracy.
Right.
And I agree with you guys. I kind of like the military aspect of it. You know, the PTSD that you're seeing, and I think it was kind of cool where they brought light to stuff that people kind of hide in the back. You know, these are soldiers. They shouldn't have any problems. They shouldn't be crying mommy and stuff like that because we train them. But in reality, they go crazy. And then, you know, you have the little white kid who fucking went really crazy, the Lewis Wilson guy.
Yeah.
And it's funny, too, because he follows that other big guy. I forget that guy's name.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Find out he's a cop.
Yeah, he was full of shit.
Yeah. And that's how it always works out. There's somebody who creates, you know, drama, and then you find out, oh, this guy's for shit. You know, he just wants the attention. You know, he had a silver star that wasn't even his.
Right. So, I was like, when they showed all that stuff, I was like, you motherfucker, what a piece of shit. Yeah.
And so when he got killed by the Wilson kid, I was like, you deserve it, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel bad for him when he got killed. So I was like, whatever.
Yeah, and then you can even he even helped push Lewis over the edge, right? Because when they were having the pound,
because then he feels betrayed not only by, you know, his country, but by somebody that was supposedly close to him, so he just doesn't know where to go.
Yeah.
You know? And then all of a sudden he's a hero and Punisher.
Yeah, like that was like that dude was kind of like a mentor to him, and it turns out he's full of shit.
Yeah, he was a little nuts too. You know, doing the little thing at the backyard, digging the little trench and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, man. and I thought about it when I was watching it. I was like, there are like thousands of these fuckers over here right now. They're like that. And I just, you know, I hope that, you know, they see the Punisher and say, hey, you know what, maybe I need help. The other thing I kind of was, I think I told you about it, is like, what's up with Karen Page? Is she hooking up with Daredevil? Is she hooking up with Punisher? Yeah, choose the guy. Would you just like the leather thing?
Like the
I see how they needed to tie somebody in from the main universe. So, you know, they obviously brought Karen Page, which you know, they have a connection together. Like, they're really close where he has like a romantic tie to her, but he won't cross the line, and I'm not sure if it's because he doesn't want to get her hurt, or he still feels guilty about his wife. So it's kind of like he's tethering, because obviously you can tell he really likes her. Like, he went after them like nothing. Like, you know, he protected her and was, you know, he's just would do anything for her. So, like I said, it's cool, but it's kind of weird too. It's like, okay, so where's this going? Is she gonna tether back to?
Oh, did we lose Jesse?
Yeah, I think so. He's probably still talking.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna comment on Karen anyway. So Karen being in there normally it was Claire, right? Rosario Dawson. She's the one that was like in every single season, but it wouldn't make sense for her to cross over into Punisher, because she has no ties to him at all in any way. So if they were to put her in there, that would be really weird. So Karen is the one that was closest to Punisher throughout Daredevil. So I see why they put her in there. Having her in there was a little forced. You can tell that they wanted to get her in there, but really it was because Claire was the one that tied the other shows together.
Correct, and that's what I was saying too. I was saying that I think I understand why she's there. She's there to tie him to the main universe, to keep him tied into the universe.
Right. And it can't be Claire, because Claire has no tie to him at all.
No. Well, she has a romantic title.
No, Claire. I mean Claire. Rosario Dawson.
I'm sorry,
you're
right. Claire has no tie to him, but Karen does. Karen has a semi-romantic relationship with him, but like I was saying when you were hearing me, was he won't cross that line, and I'm not sure if it has anything to do with his commitment to his wife, or he just doesn't want to put her in danger, because anybody he cares about gets hurt.
Yeah, it's hard to say, because he had that. Yeah, he had that conversation with Micro. Remember when Micro was kind of like, when his wife was calling, he's like, "Oh, your girlfriend is calling you."
Yeah.
And Punisher was like, "I don't want you. I want my wife." So it's hard to say. Yeah, like is he still feeling like, no, I can't because of my wife. I can't be with Karen because I still love my wife and I want my wife. I don't know if it's that, or like you said, anyone being tied to him is in danger. So it's probably a little bit of both, I'm guessing.
Yeah, because you see how far he goes for her.
Yeah.
He puts his liberty in danger a few times for her, not caring, like, you know. So yeah, I mean, you see, this isn't just any normal girl. You know, it's like, oh, she's a friend.
Right.
No, he's obviously would kill anybody who fucks with her, which, you know, something she would feel guilty if he does. So, but what I was saying too was I really love the Micro character.
Yeah, he was good. That guy was really good.
I think that if it wasn't for him, this story would be totally different, because Punisher's always so broody.
Yeah.
But he adds a comic relief. He's like he's an opposite. Or not even opposite. I guess they're perfect. And I think there's two scenes that I like with him, big scenes. The one like you guys were talking about, he gets drunk. Hey, you can see my wife, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That was great. That was just like, well, what is he going to do? He's not going to fucking beat up Frank Castle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, what was he going to do? Like, try and fight him?
Yeah, exactly. And second, when he's been being, like when he's tied up to the chair, all this time, he's really playing with them to basically get him on his side or to at least listen to him, because Punisher could just have left him. But if he thinks that if Micro's still tied in and then he needs them to stop the alarms every so many hours or whatever, then he's able to slowly convince him. Because at any time he could have got that pen and then just jabbed him. And, like he did, he got himself subjected to, being put naked and all that. So that way he can talk some sense to him. So I kind of like that, where he's obviously doing all this for his family. I know there's that backstory of justice, but in reality, he's doing it because he wants to be able to go back to his family without them being in danger.
Right.
And so he was willing to go ahead and put himself in that position where it's like, Punisher's like interrogating him. So
I also like the scene when they were in the van and Punisher's eating his MREs, and he pulls out that sandwich. And Punisher's all, "Where'd you get that?" He's all, "It was all stuff in the fridge." Did you make me one? He's like, "No."
And like I said, there's a comic relief there, which is well needed, and that's something that Marvel does well. The jokes aren't over cheesy; it just almost fits perfect.
Yeah, it was a real subtle joke,
Yeah.
And it fit into their characters. It's not gonna be something goofy. It's not gonna be a wacky joke or anything like that. It was just a small like it was just like, "Hey man, where's my sandwich?" "Oh, I'm gonna make you one." Just a little, just thrown in there. And or when he's really drunk, and he's all, "Hey, you know why my wife loves me? Because I'm hung like a moose." It's like, what?
I laughed at that because Punisher had him naked, so technically he could verify her.
Yeah.
That. But this one was still saying that, and it was I think he was a really good character. It was perfect. He was a perfect guy in the chair.
Yeah.
And I think another moving moment for him was when he feels like his son is bullying people, and he gets back the sister, and like he feels like he wants to go back, and he actually does. Like when they're playing football.
Oh yeah, he risked everything.
Yeah, and so at that point you do see how much he loves his family, and you see that really him and Frank are the same people. They were both dedicated parents, and they both love their wives. So I think that's probably why Punisher puts up with Micro, because he sees that commitment that he has for his family. So, I mean, they're obviously two different people. And I think that's the reason why he has that dream sequence of the Thanksgiving, because he could see them being friends in the real world.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, that was a really cool scene. You can see he's like, oh man, he really cares for this guy. Like, he connected with them really fast. Like, in another life, they could have been, they could have been buddies, and their kids could have played together and stuff. So. Yeah, you're like, that was another sad scene. I was like, oh man, Punisher, like, he really cares for this guy.
Now, one of the best scenes of this show was the dream sequence. Not the dream sequence, the flashback, where he just goes AWOL. He fucking goes, like, his team is like locked down, and then he just runs into the freaking building itself and just kills everybody inside.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck, dude, you should just told him, okay, why don't you guys go back? I got it,
Yeah, that was the scene that the captain was talked about in Daredevil, when he was testifying about Frank, and then they actually showed it, and it was dope. That's right when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good show.
Yeah, he went nuts, and obviously you understand that. I mean, it's basically rage. It's kind of like when Wolverine gets into that mode where it's just, there's that. I know there's a name for it. I can't think of it. There's a fever of some type.
Right.
They just get into it. So, but I think the thing that surprised me the most, and that he admitted to it, he was a guy that shot the the interpreter where he was. He was a police officer. That's what he was, right?
Yeah, he was the partner, the Homeland Security was the partner.
And the shock that he admitted that he was the one, and I'm like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense why he's kind of feels responsible for this, but at the same time, he was a soldier. He was told to do something. And I think I made this complaint when he was doing Secret Empires. It's almost like I'm a soldier and I was just following orders. So that's one thing I didn't like, but I kind of understand. When you're in that position, when you're in war, you really don't ask too many questions. You just do what you're being told to do. And so obviously he was told to shoot the guy, he shot the guy.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
Then after the fact, he's like, all right, this is wrong.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you cool down, then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I fucking just, executed somebody. And he obviously doesn't know if the guy was guilty of anything or not. So, I think what I also liked about the show was that they were it wasn't rated PG thing. This is a true Punisher storyline. You see all the killing, the blood, the girl scenes. They even have the sex scenes between the girl and Billy and stuff. And she's very aggressive, which is kind of cool. It's because a lot of times it's the man who's being assertive, but she's actually, it shows that, a woman has, a sexual appetite as well, and, can control the thing, the relationship in a way. Because he was the one that kind of was feeling butthurt, like, oh, you're just using me kind of thing. And because he's a pretty boy.
Right.
So like I said, I kind of like that they were open to do that. So,
yeah, I think the other ones, I think I read somewhere the other Netflix shows where if they were a rating, they were like PG-16. This one's rated R. Like,
yeah,
there's no getting around it. This is a rated R show, and that's the only way you can do the Punisher right. So, yeah. So,
and I think me and you have talked about this that you have to have a rated R Punisher. There's no, and that was the same thing with Deadpool. You couldn't have a true Deadpool if it wasn't in a rated R scene way.
Yeah, and Wolverine as well.
Yeah. With Wolverine definitely.
So overall, I gave Punisher, 2 thumbs up overall. What do you guys think? Same thing?
Yeah, I would give it. It would be on the top of my Netflix series, like one of the top 2. I think Daredevil season 1 was still pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That one was.
So those 2 are up there. I'm not gonna put one over the other, but I would group them together into the same group.
And also it was such a relief too, because Iron Fist was so bad, and then Defenders was not bad but underwhelming. I think it wasn't a bad show, but it was like, it was a letdown. It definitely wasn't the big epic show we were hoping for. So it was okay, and so yeah, those 2 dud. Well, one was a dud. One was a little underwhelming, and then this one was like, oh, yes, they're back on track. And I'm looking forward to, like, I think Jessica Jones is next, I think. And her show was great, so I'm looking forward to that. And then they did the smart thing, and they combined Luke Cage and Iron Fist for season 2. I think it's technically Iron Fist season 2, but it's both of them together. So I think that was a smart thing to do, because Iron Fist needs help in the worst way. So get Luke Cage in there, who was really cool. And then Daredevil, what's that?
Yeah, I was going to say they can at least play off each other.
Right.
Instead of the viewer being stuck with just Iron Fist.
Yeah. And then I think after that was Daredevil season 3. So I think we're gonna be good. I think Iron Fist, you know, they learned their mistakes from Iron Fist and Defenders, and I think we're gonna be all right for a while.
I wonder who they're gonna have direct, or what style they're gonna have direct the Iron Fist slash Luke Cage.
You know what? Let me. I have to look into that, and I want to see who the new showrunner is, because it's not the guy from before. It's not Scott Buck, who went on to do Inhumans, which we'll talk about next. It's not that guy, so it's a whole new crew. I'm gonna have to look into it, and I'll see who's running the show, and I want to see what kind of style and where they come from.
Yeah, because remember how we talked about this in a previous podcast? How each show you can see like a different type of style, lighting, color, and I wonder how they're going to combine the two. If it's going to be based on scenes, or if it's, I mean, like you said, if they have a different totally person, then maybe that person's going to totally change it and not be the same thing.
Hey, Jesse, before we switch topic, this is kind of like a small Easter egg, but did you catch the reference for Life of Pi like twice in the show? Probably just me then.
Okay. You're talking about that movie with the tiger. The tiger, right? In the boat and stuff with the little ninja dude?
Yeah, so they referenced it twice. Once, I forget it was Micro or Punisher. He was talking to their kids, and the kid mentioned like if the tiger was real or not. And then I think it was episode 4 or 5 when they were in the forest. When Micro was in a truck waiting, he was reading the book Life of Pi. So I was just wondering if there was anything behind that, or maybe the director or whoever, the writer, just liked the book and kind of just plugged that in there for some reason.
Maybe because I'm looking out here and your IGN put something about Easter eggs, and there's something out there about that too. So yeah, I mean, I didn't catch it at all. I mean, I know, like I said, I know the movie you saw. I thought it was a really good movie until the end, and then I realized, what the fuck? No, but yeah, trying to see if I can get to that Easter egg. But yeah, obviously there was an Easter egg in there.
Oh, so Jesse, I looked up the showrunner for Iron Fist season 2 is Raven Metzner. He was the showrunner for Sleepy Hollow and Falling Skies. I didn't see Sleepy Hollow. I know that ran for a long time on Fox.
Yeah. I
can't comment on it. I didn't see it. I don't know. I did watch Falling Skies. And Falling Skies started off strong, and it ended pretty weak.
Hey!
Whoa.
Yeah, I hadn't heard the same thing too. I never liked it. I never liked the concept of it. So I was like, it's Independence Day with the guy from ER.
Yeah. What was cool about it, what I liked about it was an alien invasion and we lost. So that's what I thought was cool. Was like, okay, now how do we fight back? We've lost the Earth to aliens.
We already had that though. Back in the 80s, we had V. I mean, you're probably a little young for it, but V.
Yeah, I didn't see V. Yeah, but I think this is a little more post-apocalyptic than V. This was like,
yeah, because V was more like we were taken over and we were enslaved. This one is kind of like Terminators, right?
Yeah. It was like it had a Terminator vibe, and but I like I said, I like the beginning of the show. But the last season was really bad, and I found out that TNT just told them to just wrap it up, and they were like, oh shoot, and they just had to cram the ending into that, so it messed up the last season. But I did like the show before that. So, but like I said, I didn't see Sleepy Hollow, so I can't really comment on that. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what this guy does.
Yeah, I think the only Sleepy Hollow episode I saw was because it was a crossover with Bones.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It did crossover.
And I wasn't sure they were doing that to try to get some more fans or what, but that's the only time I really saw it.
Probably. I know Sleepy Hollow was like, it was one of those shows that was loved by fans, but the ratings were always really low. So me and Jesse were watching Inhumans. Brian, you didn't watch it, did you?
No, not at all.
Yeah, okay. So me and Jesse we're watching Inhumans, and we just got finished talking about the showrunner for Iron Fist was Scott Buck, and Scott Buck was also the showrunner for Dexter when Dexter got really bad after season 4, I think, and Dexter was like, it was so bad. It was just terrible. I was so disappointed because that show was so good. He took over for Iron Fist, so I was like, I don't know about this guy. Sure enough, Iron Fist stinks. And then, for some reason, right after Iron Fist, they put him on the Inhumans. And I'm like, why? And then at the time, when they announced that he was going to run Inhumans, Iron Fist wasn't out yet. And I was like, well, maybe he did a good job on Iron Fist, and that's why they want him Inhuman. No, Iron Fist stunk. Inhumans was the biggest pile of turd I've seen in years. Like, it's Dexter's final season bad. Like, it's probably even worse than that because they tried to use special effects and they all look like shit. Other than Lockjaw. Lockjaw looked pretty good.
Did you watch the entire series? Like the entire season?
Of Inhumans?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was only 8 episodes, I think.
Okay.
It was just terrible. It was terrible. One of the guys who directed, I think he directed the pilot. He's known for doing like sci-fi B movies that go on the Sci-Fi Channel. And he said that they hired him because they wanted the show done fast and quick. And I'm like, why do that? Why do you want to make Inhumans? Why do that? Why do you want it fast and cheap? My bad. And I don't understand. I was like, why set yourself up for failure like that? I just don't get it.
Also, when you have Disney money.
Yeah, I don't understand. They're like, just get the show out fast, and we need it done on the cheap. Like, why? I don't understand. Why would you, especially such a big property like Inhumans? Jesse mentioned earlier that the Inhumans have been a big part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I was like, okay, they're going to expand on that now. You're going to bring in the royal family and you can really get into it. But it was so bad that if it was up to me, I don't know if I was talking with you guys about this. If it was up to me and I was Marvel, I would just erase this. I wouldn't even acknowledge it existed at all. Recast the whole cast and bring them back later and just pretend it didn't happen. It was that bad, and it's not like anyone watched it. The ratings, the ratings were so low that no one saw it. So on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I would have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. don't even acknowledge it. Just pretend it didn't happen and then bring them back in later because those are really, really cool characters. And I feel bad for the actors watching it because you can tell they're really trying. They're really putting, but there's nothing there. The writing was weak. The story was weak. The sets were weak. I forgot. It might have been you, Brian. I'm not sure who it was, but the backgrounds looked like it was like a play. They were just so bland, and the sets were. It's supposed to be this really advanced alien civilization, but yet, the castle and the throne room were just, it was just gray and no markings on the wall, no decoration, no anything. You had no idea that it was a royal family and stuff. Again, I was saying that the actors are really trying. Like me and Jesse saw at Comic-Con how the 2 actors who played Black Bolt and Medusa, how they actually went on their own and devised their own language with sign language. Remember, Jesse, how he was using sign language, and then she was able to, so she learned sign language so that she would read his hands. So that way it didn't look like she was reading her lines. So it was like they really went above and beyond to try and make it believable, and it all went to,
that was cool.
Yeah, and it all went to waste. Like, who cares? The show was terrible. And then to go on the cheap side, we're talking about the cheap side, they did a bunch of stuff to hide the effects. So like in episode 1, they shaved Medusa's head. And I gotta get up to the actress because she went for it. They shaved her head for real. And for such a crappy show. And when they did that, I'm like, oh, okay, so now they don't have to worry about her hair effect anymore. They just shaved her head.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, when you said I was like, that's why they did it.
Yep. Yeah, so they did the CGI for her hair, which didn't even look good, for 10 minutes. Because then they shaved her head off. And then Lockjaw, they locked him into a room. Remember they put him to sleep? They knocked out Lockjaw and they put him in a room. So okay, Lockjaw's gone. So he's not there for a few episodes. Karnak, he hits his head. and so then he can't use his powers for like 3 or 4 episodes because he got like a concussion or something.
Hey, but he got laid.
Yeah, yeah, he did. He
got
met
laid and got high.
Yeah, he became an Earthling.
He did. I want to call him Clay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the other characters like Black Bolt, you didn't have to show anything because he just doesn't talk. So as long as he doesn't talk, you don't show his power. Gorgon, he just wore boots, so you couldn't see his feet. And Crystal really didn't. She used her powers like twice, so they got around all of that. And I was just watching the show I was like, you cheap bastards! Like, why even do a show about Inhumans if you're not even gonna make them use their powers? And then Black Bolt, they changed his powers completely. Well, not completely, but his physical power they removed it, so he's like a normal guy. Where in the comics, he's right up there with the Hulk and Thor, Namor. He can fight all those guys. He's that powerful. And then on top of it, he has his voice where when he speaks, he unleashes seismic waves, I guess, and he can destroy buildings and he can destroy, I guess they're not gonna show on the show, but he can destroy a mountain with his voice and stuff, just by whispering, and so that's what makes him he's one of the top. When it comes power-wise in the Marvel Universe, he's up there. He's way up there. He's one of the top guys. So here on the show, they got rid of all of that. So he's just a normal guy, and he has his voice power. And they hyped his voice power all season, right, Jesse? They kept saying, oh, he's so powerful. He's the most powerful one of us.
You only saw his voice being used twice.
Twice. 2 times.
And really 3 times. Because it's when he lands in Hawaii, and he's surprised, and then he fucks up the cars. Oh, right. No, I'm sorry. That was a dog, huh?
Yeah, that was a dog, yeah. Like the cop, I think the cop kicks him, and he goes, ugh, and he destroys a car.
Okay. That's what it was. Okay,
yeah.
So there's that one, when he kills his parents.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end.
Yeah. And that was supposed to be his, like, big reveal of his power. And all he does is he destroys the building that he locked Maximus in. He just says goodbye, and he says goodbye, and then bam, it destroys. So like that's cool. It's like, wow, that's really powerful. But that's it. That's all they showed. They just showed him destroy a building, and that's it. Like he didn't use it in battle. He didn't do anything like that. He locked his brother in the basement as punishment on the moon, and he said goodbye, brought down the building, and that was it. For the whole show, that's all he used his powers for.
And you know what? It's pretty sad because you're saying that they were on the cheap. When you had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and you had a character, we're not even talking about just Sky, because there's a bunch of characters that have inhuman powers. But with I can't think of his name right now.
With Ghost Rider?
Rider.
Ghost Rider.
Yeah, Ghost Rider. I'm sorry. I don't know why I went blank. Anyway, so you have just effects on Ghost Rider. So you have the money. You know that Marvel has the money for it. So, and not even that, they have the means. Why don't they borrow their cousins, their IT department from... You make us hair that will move like this. And okay, let's say you don't do Medusa's hair because that could cost a lot of money. Dude, they could have done all the other special effects.
Yeah, then Karnak looked horrible.
Yeah,
he looked terrible.
I was impressed with the first episode, but I think most of the impressive part was how beautiful Hawaii looks.
Right.
But like you said, it's just like, fuck, why would I want to stay at the moon? This is supposed to be a paradise away from, Earth, and it's just like crappy built homes.
Yeah, so Inhumans was, man, you watch that show and it was just so bad, and good thing Punisher came out, and I was like, okay, we're safe. But yeah, Inhumans, I would, if I had to give it a grade, I'd give it an F minus. 0 out of 5. Piece of shit.
I think I would have sent it to the special school bus.
You would tell it's in the wrong class. It's in the wrong class.
Yeah, it's like, I'm sorry, you need to go. You can't pass this line right here. This is your line, and please hold on to your partner. and here's your helmet.
You know what I want to see, what I'm interested in is when we go to con next year, and they do whatever show they're gonna hype. If we go into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. panel or the Netflix panel, and Jeff Loeb is there, I want to know what the nerds are gonna do. Are they gonna be like, "What the hell? What the hell is up with Inhumans?" Or is he gonna give a disclaimer at the beginning of the panel? I know Inhumans suck. Don't ask about it. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, they dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. built up so much on the Inhumans that it kind of sucks because they could have had a really good show. I mean, I think that if they would have done a really good job, they would have really had the fan base for that.
Yeah, like you said, they dropped the ball. Big disappointment. That's the biggest disappointment. I mean, when you're watching a show and you're like, you know what, Iron Fist isn't so bad, that's when you got a bad show.
And you know what? I actually liked Agent Carter. You know, a lot of people complain about Agent Carter.
Agent Carter was cool. Agent Carter was cool. It was just no one watched it, so.
Yeah.
But that was cool. I liked Agent Carter too. I was hoping they would, they can keep a show around, because it's Disney and stuff. But when it gets to the point to where they're like just bleeding money off of it, then they just cut their losses. But I liked Agent Carter. I was hoping they would keep it around.
Yeah, I think they could have done something with it, and then, but yeah, this Inhumans part of it, and I think that's towards the end of Agent Carter, some of that Inhumans storyline was like maybe some prehistory to that was gonna start happening. And that would have been cool because then they could have led up to a better maybe Inhuman storyline. Like maybe back in Agent Carter time, this is when the Inhumans went to the moon. I don't remember how many years the Inhumans have been on the moon.
Right.
So that would have been really good. So even the speech at the end and stuff like that, I was like too much. I agree with you. The writing on there sucked. The only reason I kept on checking that every week was Crystal. She was hot, but at the same time she was stingy as fuck. But sometimes I would just mute it and just look at her. It's like, I don't know what you did to her, girl, but whatever, just keep on talking. So yeah, I mean, the show really did suck, and then there's like so many things that they left out. Like, what happened to the soldiers? Like, the soldiers were gone, and all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah, like
and then the big guy with the human powers, he was with them, and then all of a sudden he's gone. And I actually liked him. I thought he was funny. I thought he was cool.
They ran out of money. Like, oh, gotta get these guys out of here.
They're like, we can't cast you guys no more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and then they only did 8 episodes. I mean, this isn't Netflix. This is ABC. So, I mean, not that they would have made any better. I think they should have just had a better storyline, and they would have done good. They should have came out with more episodes.
So we had a disappointing show for Marvel, and so now we're going to talk about a disappointing movie that came out. Me and Brian didn't see it. Jesse saw it, and we're talking about Justice League. Financially, it did really bad. It's kind of throwing the rest of their universe into question right now. Critically, it was smashed right from the get-go, so me and Brian decided to hold off. Jesse, though, was able to see it. So, Jesse, what do you think of it as a fan? I know you're more of a Marvel guy, but I know you know DC pretty much too. A good amount of DC, though. What do you think about it?
I don't know if I want to press judgment as a fan, as a moviegoer. I think I really think they fucked up. Okay, so like I was telling you, is I kind of liked the movie in some aspects of it, but I still think that they fucked up because they should have done backstories on the rest of the Justice League characters. The movie was too rushed for me. It was like as a comic book reader, I know the backstory of Superman, Batman, Flash. Even if you don't watch the TV show, because this Flash doesn't have the same storyline, or doesn't have the exact same storyline as the Flash on TV on the CW. So, but as a comic book reader, like I said, I know his backstory, Cyborg and Aquaman. You know, so to me, in that aspect, it was too rushed. I mean, I'm sorry. And to me, some of the things that were assumed were easy for me to assume because of the fact, oh, I know what they're talking about. But for people who never read a comic book and are just watching this because it's a superhero movie, they're gonna be lost. They're gonna be lost in so many aspects of the movie. This is definitely tied in to Superman, Batman versus Superman. So if you didn't see the first one, then this movie kind of also throws you into a loop. Wonder Woman, there's a tie-in with the Wonder Woman storyline, but if you didn't see Wonder Woman, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah, I mean, you might be curious of why there's an island with a bunch of hot chicks, but I think the mythos is already out there anyway. I think everybody kind of knows the story of Wonder Woman anyway. So yeah, I think that they should have done like kind of what Marvel done, do a lot of character building, then create the group movie, and then go back to smaller movies. I kind of really don't want to throw spoilers because you guys haven't seen it, but I think you guys are going to care anyway. But one thing I did like was that they introduced the Green Lantern Corps. There's a scene where the Green Lanterns are on Earth helping fight off Steppenwolf in the past. So that's kind of cool because then that means that's an introduction to people to that. Oh, there might be a movie or something because supposedly on the books there's a Green Lantern Corps movie on the books. So people now see it in Justice League, then they'll be like, oh yeah, there's that movie. So we'll see how they do that. Some of the special effects were kind of cool. Flash definitely is the comic relief on this one. He says a lot of funny things and stuff, so he pulls that off. But yeah, generally, I don't want to give it an F, so I'm just gonna give it a D. It's better than Inhumans.
Right.
And you know what? Okay, it's not as good as Wonder Woman. It's like I posted on Facebook. It's not as good as Wonder Woman. It's not as bad as Batman vs Superman.
Right, so it's in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah, and there's I think one thing that I didn't like, which I really did, oh fuck it, I'm just gonna spoil it because you guys are gonna watch it, so it's probably free. There's a part where Superman's mom loses a farm. It's in foreclosure. Now, in my head, I'm like, how the fuck did Superman's mom get booted out of her farm? Because of two things. One, you would think that Clark Kent would have had life insurance, but not even that. The father would have had a life insurance when he died. So the farm should have been taken care of. Two, in this movie, you see that Bruce Wayne / Batman does a lot of stuff for Clark Kent. And in fact, they bring him back to life because of a guilt that Batman has. And obviously the necessity of him, they need him in this movie. So how is Bruce Wayne with his back computer not keeping tabs mortgage on the one person that he should be keeping tabs on?
Right, exactly. That's funny.
And I don't think that they really thought about it.
Right.
Because she basically, you see her in a scene, she's leaving the farm, there's a foreclosure, It's his bank foreclosed, and then she heads and sees Lois Lane, and Lois Lane's like, "Why didn't you tell me, bitch? She's your mother-in-law. Why didn't you find out? You were a reporter." So it's kind of like on her too. And then she's like, "Oh, I didn't want to worry you. You have your own problems with, Clark's death, blah blah blah." It's like, this should have never happened. So, and mostly with Bruce, because at the end you find out that Bruce Wayne buys the bank that owns the fucking farm, because Clark asks him, "Thanks for helping mom out. What did you do?" He says, "I bought the bank," which only Bruce Wayne could do, right? So why he wasn't, like I said, how did he drop the ball? So, I mean, you're over here fighting aliens all over the world, but you can't fucking keep track of someone's financial, status. The mother of the guy who you feel sorry for, like your best buddy. I don't know. To me, it that threw me off. That was like the biggest disappointment in the movie. Like, dude, why is she leaving? What the fuck? That's, like I said, that's my biggest. It's sad because that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, you're like, of all the stuff in the movie, that's the one that you're like, nah.
Like I said, there was parts in the movies that were good. Unfortunately, I didn't see the movie in the big screen like I was supposed to. I kind of overstepped because I had a very long day the night before. I was at a Battlefront 2 release party until midnight, and when I got home, I missed the next day. But I did see it. Would I go probably pay $15-20 to go see it again? No. I mean, maybe $5-6. Yeah, because there were some cool scenes. There were some cool fighting scenes. Wonder Woman is, of course, great in this movie. I found out again that she was acting while she was pregnant again. It's like, is she gonna get pregnant in every movie she fucking makes or what? But yeah, I guess she had just gotten pregnant during the movie making. It wasn't like the first when she did Wonder Woman. During Wonder Woman, actually, she was full pregnant, which they had a CGI her belly. In this one, she was just barely pregnant. So, but yeah, I think she played a really good part in this. There's a kind of cool fight scene with the Amazonians and Steppenwolf. The fight scene with the Atlanteans wasn't as good, but yeah, we'll see where it goes. Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go with this. I mean, obviously they leave it open so that they can make further Justice League movies, but we'll see if this happens. I just hope that this doesn't affect the Flash movie. I think the Flash movie would actually be a really good movie. Not sure too much about the Aquaman one. I wasn't playing Aquaman as much as I thought I would. Cyborg was very, very dense. You don't get too much background on him. You do find out that he's actually like creation out of Superman's ship. So that's how his creation is. His backstory is. Obviously, you're gonna have a. Oh, you know what the best part about this movie is? Ben Affleck gets his ass kicked. There's a part where he pushes Diana, and he talks about Steve Trevor, and she just like fucking punches him and knocks him out. And then there's a part where Batman comes back to life, but obviously being resurrected, he goes like crazy, like I don't know who you guys are, or why'd you bring me back, or he's kind of like in a daze, so he's being the shell of Superman. I mean, I'm Batman, or in my head, I'm thinking Ben Affleck. So that was probably a plus, but yeah, we'll give it a solid D.
Yeah, my yeah, like I said, me and Brian didn't see it. I had some family members see it though, and when I asked them about it, I was like, hey, like my sister and her brother-in-law saw it, and they don't know anything about comics. They don't know anything about the directors, Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. They don't know anything about that. So they go in and pretty much it's just the common moviegoer. And I asked them about it, and I was like, hey, they're like, we saw Justice League, and I was like, how was it? And they were like, well, it was okay, but I'm really confused. And then they just asked, like, who's Cyborg? Who's Aquaman? Who's the Flash? Why was the movie so dark in some places, and then it was funny, and then it was back, and it was funny, and then it wasn't? And they were just really confused by the whole thing. And then I told them, I was like, well, there was a director. He had to step down. Another guy jumped in. So you have two directors on it. And even without them knowing about that, they picked up on it. They were like, it just seemed, they just felt something off. You know what I mean? Like, it was funny, and then it wasn't, then it was, and then it wasn't, and then it was, and then it was really, it felt rushed. And I told them how they cut a lot of the movie out. They probably cut like half an hour out or something like that. Because it was barely 2 hours, I think. And so they definitely.
Well, like on Cyborg, like what they were talking about Cyborg, he's not the Teen Titans Cyborg. No. I think that's probably the dark part that they're saying, because Cyborg in this one is very dark, very. He basically takes the spot of Batman. He's like very broody and stuff. Like
right. That. Yeah. And they're saying like your Batman is real serious, and then the next you see him, he's cracking a joke, and then Flash was funny the whole way through, but then Batman seems like he liked him, and it seems like so. This is what they're telling me. So they were confused, and then I saw my aunt the other day, and she saw Justice League, and I was like, "What'd you think?" And she was like, "First thing, who's Cyborg? Who's Aquaman? Who's Flash?" And they were more interested about who everyone was than the movie itself. And then I was like, "What'd you think of the movie?" And they're like, "It's okay." So I think that goes back to what you were saying, how they're 5 years behind Marvel, and them skipping those movies to where they didn't introduce these characters, that left people like, I don't know what's really going on. Why are they helping each other? I don't get it. So I think that definitely hurt. They kind of went the weird way where they went Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, the big three, Justice League. And now they're going to do Aquaman, Flash by themselves. But they kind of went backwards on that, and just talking to people who don't know anything about comics, they don't watch the cartoons or nothing. It hurt their movie experience because they were confused.
Because with Wonder Woman, you obviously get a character development in the whole movie. So they probably, if they had seen Wonder Woman before, they probably just knew who Wonder Woman is.
Yeah, they all saw Wonder Woman, so
Superman, but that was it.
You're right. Yeah, they all saw Wonder Woman. They all liked Wonder Woman, so they knew her. But yeah, they're like the big one obviously was Cyborg. They're like, who the hell is Cyborg? Because if you're if you're a general fan, you have no idea who that guy is. Like in the comics, we all we know that he was part of.
Because there's a Flash.
Yeah, he was.
If you see him on CW.
Yeah, and Cyborg was on Teen Titans. He was on the cartoon. In the comics, he was Teen Titans, and they made him part of the Justice League and part of New 52. But if you don't read comics, you just don't know who the hell this guy is. His biggest on screen was probably Teen Titans Go, the little kids show. So if you don't watch that, you don't know who he is. Flash has been around forever. You kind of have a general idea who he is. Like you said, he has a Flash TV show. So if you watch the TV show, you know who he is. Everyone knows Aquaman as like the worthless guy. Right? He's always getting shit on. But he looked, they made him look cool in this movie. So
he was cool in this movie, though.
Yeah.
Like,
so
he was basically like had really good powers and stuff like that. And he was just a drunk.
Yeah.
You could treat him like this.
Yeah, and then Brian, I think your brother saw it, and he same thing, right? He said it was okay, but it has problems.
Yeah, he said it was okay. He didn't think it stood out or anything, and he pointed out like a couple of, like, what the fuck type of moments, like when Superman comes back and Lois is like calling him by his real name, like next to the cops and stuff. I don't know what he's talking about. But Jesse, you probably know what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah. And I thought about that too. I totally forgot that you brought it up. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, bitch? You're supposed to go ahead and keep the secret, and she would die in the comics if it happened. And over here, she's like, Clark. It's like, no, it's the big Superman.
Yeah, and the other thing I read was that Aquaman's never been to or know about Atlantis. Like, what the hell is that? Like, shouldn't
Say that again?
Like he doesn't know about Atlantis in the movie, right?
Yeah, he does. That's
okay.
That's where the mother box is at.
Okay.
There's a scene. I mean, unless he's talking about because remember, Atlantis was originally on the ground and then it sunk. So maybe that's what he's talking about, because there's a fight scene with him and Stephen, and it should be in Atlantis, unless they hid it away from Atlantis and hid it in a certain place. But I thought in my mind they didn't show like the whole city, but they did show an underground area where they were guarding the mother box, and it was another chick, and I know that she had to be important. I forgot her name, or I don't know if I caught her name, but she was one of the female warriors that was there guarding that mother box. So I assumed that was Atlantis, but he might be right. Maybe it wasn't Atlantis. I guess I don't.
No, it's not that. From what I read, is maybe I read it incorrectly. Like, he didn't know about it. Like, he didn't know it existed. So if what I read is correct, if you're Aquaman, how could you not know about it if you're like the ruler of the sea, So just kind of weird. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, someone can correct me on that. But yeah, and then the other thing, like, I've talked to John about this, like, in the movie posters, there's no Superman, right? Like, they show the 5 other people, and he's one of the big draws for the movie. You see Batman and everyone else, but there's no Superman there. Like, I know it's a spoiler that he would, because he's supposed to be dead in Batman vs Superman, but how can you not have any mention or show at least a glimpse of him in the trailers or in the movie posters? You just missed out on a really big opportunity there.
Yeah, it's a marketing.
I don't know. I thought somebody told me that there was a trailer with Superman, but it wasn't Superman. It was a hint.
They didn't start showing Superman until after the movie came out. Then I don't know if they realized, because hey, we're losing money, and they shot a new trailer and they put Superman in it. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, the last trailer was Alfred. He's talking to someone behind the camera, like, "Oh, I'm glad you're back. I hope it's not too late." It's like, it's obvious it's him, unless they're talking about the Green Lantern.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be the Green Lantern, So they should have just shown him, at least like show his face at the very end of that trailer. That would have been like oh wow, he's back kind of thing. But they wanted to invest in the story, I guess. They just wanted to protect that spoiler, and I think it backfired on them.
Yeah, money-wise, the movie, I think opening weekend it made like $94 million, which for any other movie that's good, but for a movie like this that's supposed to be super epic and stuff, that was really, really bad. I think they said they're estimating that it's gonna lose between $50 to $100 million in there somewhere. And this past weekend, they were kind of hoping that, well, with Thursday, I mean, with the holiday weekend, more people will go see it and it'll boost up the money. And it did. It got crushed by Coco, Pixar's newest movie. It lost out. It didn't. The way they saw it, the way the Hollywood and the producers and stuff like that, the executives, they were praying that this movie would make more than Thor's opening week, because they consider Thor a B character. The A characters would be Iron Man, Captain America, an Avengers movie. Thor is considered B level. I think Thor was so good that Thor Ragnarok was so good that it could have pushed him up to A level, like Iron Man. Iron Man was a B level character, but it was so great that it elevated him to A level. Ragnarok was freaking great, and it's still making a ton of money. So Thor might have been boosted up to A level. But anyway, the executives at DC were like, or Warner Brothers were really freaking out that Thor's opening weekend would beat Justice League's, and that's what happened. It didn't get close to touching Thor. Thor's still killing it. I think it's closing in on 800 million. This movie, I think I told you, Brian, that it's on track to be Ant-Man. It could finish with the same amount of money as Ant-Man did. That's terrible. Yeah, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, the 3 biggest comic book characters ever, and you can't beat Ant-Man. So right now, there's a lot of disarray right now with the Warner Brothers Studios. No one really knows what's going to happen. Aquaman's already filming. Pretty close to being done, so that one's fine. That one's going to have to come out. And that one probably is going to be pretty good. James Wan's directing. Well, as long as the studio doesn't mess with him. James Wan is great. He does all he did like The Conjuring, Saw, a lot of good Insidious, a lot of the top horror movies the last few years. And he also did Fast and Furious, the one that Paul Walker, his last one. Yeah. They have a director working on Shazam, and they cast that one. That one's ready to go. They cast Chuck, the guy who plays Chuck. He's gonna play Shazam, which I think that's actually pretty good. That could be pretty funny. And then Flash, I don't know if that's gonna get going because that movie's gone through 3 directors already, and right now currently doesn't have one. And then there were talks of the Flash and Cyborg movie being together, but so far recently I haven't heard anything about it. So the only movies, and then also there's supposed to be the Batman, but sounds like Ben Affleck's ready just to tap out. Sounds like he might not even do it. And they might have to get replaced. Yeah, and they might have to get a new Batman already, which is crazy. So, and then like Jesse, you brought it before, and we saw it at Comic-Con too, right? They had like, Cyborg movie coming, Green Lantern Corps movie coming, blah blah blah. I haven't heard anything about those movies, so I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, no, forget it, we're not doing that. I'd also heard before that they were contemplating just focusing on Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman from now on, which makes sense because they're the most bankable characters. But I also read too recently that DC has pretty much given up on doing the whole shared universe thing. I'm not sure if it was Jeff Johns. I think it was Jeff Johns. It's someone else. They were just saying that it's just too hard. Then they can't do it. They were like, Marvel did it. Marvel, they know how to do the shared universe. They built it up the right way. And now all the characters can jump back and forth. Hulk can be in Thor. Hulk and Doctor Strange can both be in Thor. Not a problem. DC can't do it. Every time they try, it doesn't work. So they're going to give that up.
I agree with them, though. I agree that because look at the first Superman. It was great. It was a redemption from all the previous Superman attempts. Since Christopher Reeve, and then Wonder Woman as well. Her solo is perfect. The only one is Batman. I mean, he really didn't have a solo, but I'm just saying I think they should reboot Batman, mostly with Ben Affleck thinking of getting out. I think they should reboot Batman, and then they can tie in maybe Wonder Woman into his storyline, but like cameo, not like a big. It sounds
like the most you'll get is like, oh, I got an email from Bruce the other day. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Like, there's not going to be any cameos, nothing. Like, basically, they want to just do Wonder Woman over and over again. They hit it. They hit with Wonder Woman. Cool. They're going to leave it as Wonder Woman, and then they're just going to stay like that. So I think they're going to have to do Justice League Part 2 because you set it up already, so you can't really just forget it. But that's probably going to be the limit to what we're gonna see what crossovers. Like they're not gonna cross over anymore. What's that?
The Flash movie is supposed to be called Flashpoint, right?
Supposedly.
I'm looking at
yeah. So yeah.
2020 is supposed to be called Flashpoint.
Yeah, but there's been no movement on that movie at all. Like they announced it.
But this could be the point where they can fix shit.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's what everyone was saying beforehand. But now that was before Justice League bombed. So now they're like, okay, we don't know what we're doing anymore. They might just scrap it. That movie can just get canceled straight up.
Yeah.
That's why I said before all this, I always wrote down their release dates in pencil because they've done it before. They did it with Green Lantern way back. They had a whole thing set up, Green Lantern bomb, and they erased it. So here we are again. Justice League just bombed again. And so all that stuff they have planned, like, it could just go away. They can just be like, you know what? We're not going to do Flashpoint. We're not going to do Green Lantern Corps. We're just going to stick to Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, which is possible. We already have Aquaman, so we'll put that out. It's already done, so whatever. Shazam, they just cast all the Shazam stuff. They could just say no, and they could just cut that. You know, we don't know what they're doing anymore. So it's all up in the air. I know this one they set up. I know the spoiler that Deathstroke comes out at the end. And Lex Luthor says something like about building a league of their own, you know, which could be the Legion of Doom or the the Secret Six. I don't know if anyone's interest is hyped up to see it. I don't really care anymore. Suicide Squad 2 is supposed to be going, but I actually heard that that The Rock's gonna be in that one. That I thought he was supposed to be Black Adam. Yeah, it's Black Adam. Yeah, he's not gonna be The Rock, but it's Black Adam. But he was supposed to be appearing in Shazam, but they might actually put him in Suicide Squad to kind of help boost those numbers. Since that's not
have the Black Adam into Suicide Squad too.
Yeah. Yeah, because even though Suicide Squad made money, it was terrible, and the reviews were really bad. So they're worried that might carry over. So like it just kind of. What's that?
I thought they were doing a Harley Quinn solo.
They were supposed to do a Harley Quinn. It was called Gotham City Sirens. It was supposed to be Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, and Catwoman, but it looks like that's off the table now too.
You see, that's okay if it's like animated. I don't see it a real life.
Yeah, it was supposed to be, and it was supposed to be directed by the guy who did Suicide Squad, but it looks like he's out.
So, Jesse, when you watched the movie, did you think that Cyborg was a poor man's Iron Man? Or is it just me?
No, because, I mean, obviously, I know the background of Cyborg, and you can tell because Iron Man uses a suit. Cyborg is obviously, the mechanics are part of his body, and then what you see, what they show you here, which like I said, they should have done this differently. They should have done a character development movie for them. But you see that he's evolving. So he even talks about, like, I couldn't do this yesterday. And he can, kind of like hollow project by spreading his arms, and then he can hollow project something. And he's talking to his dad, and he's slowly getting, like, upgrades, if you want to call them upgrades. It's not powers, because technically he's a device. So like, to me, I can't compare the two, because like I said, one's a suit and one's like a robot, built in.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like powers. I'm just talking about like the way he looks. Like just from the trailers I've seen, he flies like Iron Man. The way they film him looks like he's Iron Man flying, and he has a core on his chest. It's just like it's a complete rip of Iron Man, but with different background and powers.
He looks like the Iron Man of like Teen Titans. If you look at him, I mean, he has the eye, he has the mechanism. I don't know. To me, like I said, I don't see the tie into the Iron Man. I didn't even think once about Iron Man when I saw Cyborg. Maybe if I did a side by side, then I could see it, what you're talking about. But I guess to me, I wasn't. I didn't feel it. again, to me, it's kind of like I already know the background on Cyborg, so that might be the reason why I couldn't see it in that eyes. Somebody who hasn't seen Cyborg, then the closest thing that they can reference it to is Iron Man, because they're obviously more character development than him, so they can compare it. But for me, it was just like, it's Cyborg. To me, I didn't see it. At least, like I said, I didn't see it. Not to say that, it's not there. So yeah, I don't know. I just noticed that there's 2 end credits. I didn't see those.
Oh, you didn't watch the end credits? The Deathstroke?
No, once the movie was done, kind of stopped.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what the other one is. One is Luthor breaks out of jail and Deathstroke breaks him out.
Yeah, and according to this, it's supposed to be Joe Manganiello or whatever.
Yeah.
The guy who was in Magic Mike, no?
Yeah. He had been cast. He was cast as Deathstroke a long time ago, and he was supposed to be the villain in the Batman movie, but that got all scrapped. But it looks like they kept him on anyway.
But what are they gonna do with Will Smith? Isn't Will Smith?
No, Will Smith is Will Smith is he's Deadshot. He's Deadshot. Yeah.
They basically look the same to me, but then you're right, they're different. I forgot. They both have a mask, but it's one's older. Yeah. I got it.
So that was our month of November recap for comic book related entertainment. You guys got anything else you want to throw in there, or we think you're all right?
I know whenever we do these, I kind of usually suggest seeing an animated film. That's from Warner Brothers, mostly when they fuck up in the movies. The last one I think I recommended was seeing Harley Quinn, Batman and Harley Quinn. I forget how the title is, but that's a really funny animated film. But not only that, check out Dark Justice League. For any of the fans that still like Constantine, and I've heard that they're still keeping the character alive somehow, that they might do something with Constantine. But this is a quick, kind of really cool. If you want to see more into the magic aspect of the Justice League side, you get to see Zatanna. Batman's in it. There's a few short scenes with Superman and Wonder Woman, but it's mostly Batman, who's the main Justice League guy. The rest of them are the Justice. There's Deadman, and then there's Swamp Thing. So yeah, if you guys are looking for something on Netflix, I would definitely check that out.
So Justice League Dark, right? That's what you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Justice League Dark. Like I said, I think we had talked about before how they were talking about making a real life movie about that, like not animated, but like I said, check out the animated one. The animated looks good. I thought it was really good, and of course, there's some funny parts in there.
Anything else you want to add in there, Brian?
No, that's it. Just looking forward to December. So
yes,
wrapping up the end of this year.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I'll most likely forget about Justice League until it comes out on video.
Yeah. Did you release? You're like, I don't even want a DVD of it. I just want to download it, and then if I decide to delete it after, then it's gone.
Yeah.
No, like HBO is pretty good at picking up those movies and showing it on there pretty quickly. So
yeah, it'll be on. I'm guessing it'll be on HBO before the summer.
Yeah, I saw Batman vs Superman and Suicide Squad from there. So I mean, no, actually, no, I saw those on a plane.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know that they're on HBO.
Yeah, they get on pretty quick. So, all right, guys, that wraps it up for us. Stay tuned for our next podcast. I'm not sure what we'll do it on, but it'll be coming up soon. All right, later.
Later.